Hello and welcome to this video on APS, or also known as Advanced Production Scheduler with BEAS. Today we're going to look into how we can maintain and improve on our scheduling using standard functionalities from the BEAS APS. So without any ado, if we go straight to my production module capacity planning APS, I am able to review all of my defined scenarios. Why is this important? Well, basically for every resource, every work order, every project, every group of resources, etc., you can create specific scenarios to be automatically calculated for you on an hourly, weekly, monthly basis, depending on how you want to do your scheduling. In this case scenario, I have my precious metal scenarios that has been created. I have here all of the existing work orders that I have depending on the requirements. As you can see here, I have some that have been already planned, that have been released, slightly outdated, but that's okay. And with also information as to if they've been started, if they need to be scheduled, if they're considered for MRP, what are the quantities I need to produce, which warehouse, etc. So basically it helps you have a quick glance of things and how the planning works in the first place. Some things you can do also is basically also just drag and drop. You can basically drag and drop your work orders to have them scheduled depending on your requirements. For example, here I'm just dragging and moving some work orders up and down and to just change priority levels. But you could also define other priority levels, as you can see here, with specific logic that's defined to your company. Depending on the priority, it may or may not schedule directly, meaning that it will take priority over other work orders using the same similar resources. Once you've done that, you can just save and call it a day. As you can see here, I see all of the start structures, define start time, end time, and delivery date. Basically, when you see it in red, it means that you're not going to hit your delivery date. As you can see here, I've got a work order starting on the 21st and ending on the 21st, but with similar delivery dates on the 21st. But if you look here, my work order 159 is stating that I'm going to start on the 21st, I'm going to finish on the 24th, and as such, those 3 days will not cover the requirements of delivery date. In those case scenarios, the great thing about APS is that you can just basically change that delivery date information to your work order to update the information directly. For example, here I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to move this around and say, hey, I'm going to do this one that's 26th, and I can just select the work order I wish to update and say yes. As you can see here, it has taken off the reserved time, but what I can do is basically select the work orders I wish to schedule and click on calculate. So it'll start action for all marked work orders, yes. Why is this so important? Basically speaking, you can define specific work order calculation types, for example, forward, backwards, catch up, stuff like that. And as you can see here, it rescheduled and recalculated the time needed to perform the tasks. And as you can see here, I'm now in black because I've now defined that I am able to produce and execute the work order in the allotted time. You can do the same thing with the start date. For example, if the start date is too late, you can change it to a sooner or later start date if needed. You can always filter by resources, filter by work orders, filter by a lot of documents if needed. For example, I can just hide the in work to simplify the view, as you can see here, with less work orders. Another great thing about the APS tool is the capability of reviewing if you can block a work order, release a work order, plan a work order. For example, if these work orders I was satisfied with the planning and I'm saying, okay, this is good to go, I can actually release the planning of the work order to allow the operators to actually review it and see it in the factory data capture module. Please refer back to our factory data capture module demonstration. At any given time, you can open your work order or even see your structure view of the selected work order. As you can see here, I'm just opening the document, as we always do in SAP, where we can drill down into documentation. As you can see here, we can review all of the existing time and information of each resource. And within each resource, you can even go even deeper and review the actual scheduling of said resources automatically. As you can see for the debug action, you can see here that it's scheduled perfectly. There's the time for all of my selected work orders for those dates, as we've just looked together as those 3 work orders, starting from 4 AM all the way till the end of the day, using up to the full 16 hours of availability. As you can see here, we have some information of the last available time. Why? because it also takes into consideration, which is very important, maintenance. If you have any interruptions or maintenance going on, the system will be able to review it and take it into consideration for any scheduling of work orders. So this is going to be extremely helpful to have very precise, to the minute planning of your work orders if required with maintenance. Another great tool that we have available is obviously the material OK availability. So basically the system reviews if you will have material on the warehouse, which means you physically have the material available, or if you'll be receiving it at some time to comply with the demands. If I go back to my filtering, I'm going to deactivate this for a second. And as you can see here, I have all my work orders. In here, I'm basically going to validate the second step. So basically, once you've done this, there's also a different option available for you, is what we call the APS Gantt chart. As you can see here, this was before the calculation. So the APS Gantt chart allows me to review basically similar information as what we just talked about. Shows me each operation step and the planning based on capacity. Here, it's the same information as I said, it was in red. Why? Because I was not able to comply to that demand to comply on the 21st. So I moved it back to 26. So for example, if I close this off for the time being and I just reopen that Gantt chart with the new information, with the one I've just updated, it's going to now show me the updated information. As you can see here, as the green arrow tells me that I am good to go. So here I'm just going to zoom in one more time and show you that detail. So here, for example, if I go to this work order, I'm able to select that resource. This gives me availability to review the utilization rates. So as you can see here, for that specific day, on the 21st, I will be using 100% of my capacity based on the fact that I'm doing multiple work orders using full capacity of that day. I can also review the resources being used. Why? Because as you can see here, I have a list of all available resources I could basically use if I wanted to change and modify on the go. For example here, change if I wanted to a different resource if you define the system to do so, in case you don't have the capacity, for example. This one, for example, is not working on the day. So I could basically just select it and modify it on the fly. Obviously, this is an option that you have, but one of the more simpler options is just being able to select and drag and drop. For example, here I could select this work order by just moving it around and saying, hey, let's move it around here and let the system work for you. The system is going to calculate and say, okay, based on your capacity, based on the information, I'm going to start around here and finish at that time. Very powerful tool indeed if you wanted to use for more precise scheduling. You can also do it on an individual level. For example, I could just select this one, move it and drag it, and as you can see here, it's going to automatically move it back to Monday. Why? Because I don't have the capacity on Saturday and Sunday to work. It automatically moves it for me around those dates. Once you're satisfied with your scheduling, you can always recalculate all the information that you have in the work order and basically close it off. So as you understand, the APS is a very powerful tool allowing you to have very strong visibility on material availability, on work order planning, releasing, the priorities, calculation types. But again, you also have the options to block any information such as time receipts. For example, you don't want the operators and the factory data captured into time, you can do that too. Same thing for MRP, should I take it into consideration for requirements? Things are available if you wanted to. Another great tool is obviously the dispatches. Why? Because the dispatch is going to give me very precise details on how the work order should be started and executed. You can have this on the screen and say, hey, I'm supposed to start at 4 a.m. and I'm going to finish at 4:10. And then I've got my next one, which is 4:10, and I'm going to finish at 4:20. You can filter it out, move it around, and basically give you a very precise information per resource and per day it's supposed to be started on. You can also have it in graphical view. Basically speaking, you can select a resource and say, hey, let's check the capacity here. As you can see on the following days, I'm basically only using under 50% on most days of my capacity. As you can see on the scheduling here, it allows you very precise information. If I go to the debug, for example, here, I can see on the 21st, like I said, well, as we're showing in the Gantt chart, I will be using 100% of that capacity on that day. So everything's going to be pushed back on the 24th, which is my following day available for me to perform my work. And it also allows you to open up the work orders and review the information of the work orders related to that task right here, as you see in the scheduling portion. You can see it on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So again, this tool is very helpful for you to review and keep track of the information. You can also have material requirements. You're basically able to select the work order and see what is needed on the work order. As you can see here, it says I need a requirement of 850 units to be able to perform that work order. If I go to this work order, for example, I can check my material requirements also, and it's going to say me exactly the same thing. The only difference is I need less. Why? Because I've already got some reserved quantities. On the work order, I already have reserved quantities. So I'm basically missing only 68, which the sorted screen will also allow me to have. As you can see here, it's telling me what I have on stock, but basically I'm missing 68 due to the fact that I'm already doing some reservations partially on this work order and also on other work orders. So basically I do not have enough to cover for the requirements listed here. So this allows us to have a very high level view of why can I schedule, am I missing material, what can I do to cover for that requirements. I can call my production planner, my purchasing team, and say, hey, I require as soon as possible material to be able to execute the job. And this in whole does cover mostly all of the standard APS functionalities. You are able to basically maintain, change, and adapt APS to your requirements with additional fields and columns within the scenario. As always, thank you so much for your attention.